Hello and welcome to Spirits and Skeptics.
Hello.
That's it? That's all you're gonna fucking say?
I don't know how much more do you want me to put in?
You're supposed to fucking try.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna start off Spirits and Skeptics with Ghost Hunters Classic, as it's called today.
Ghost Hunters 2004.
Indeed.
The old ass fucking show.
I used to watch this with my mom. How did you start watching it?
I never watched it like in order. It was always just like whenever it was on.
Mhm.
I watched a lot of those like old creepy shows like Fact or Fiction, all those like sci-fi shows and all the other things. So like Discovery Channel, anything that would had anything creepy in it, I loved it.
Okay.
Okay.
As a kid, I really enjoyed Luigi's Mansion, which had
Okay.
a lot of ghosts in it. And then 3 years after that game came out is when I started watching Ghost Hunters. I noticed my mother watching it, so I came out and took a watch. And although I was a terrified little child about the actual reality part of the show, because it didn't look like a Nintendo game, I still really enjoyed the show. And now that 20 years later, so here I can watch it again. And this time, I've been very interested in it compared to before. Definitely so.
Yeah. I mean I grew up watching this like off and on. It was mostly me watching fucking X-Files at 10 years old. I definitely shouldn't have been
Files at
watching that.
10.
So I've always been into the creepy stuff though. I think the main question that we got to ask right away before we get into the episode, before we get into the show,
Mhm.
do you believe in ghosts?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. That's a very strange way to put it. I think when it comes to paranormal and supernatural stuff, I don't want to immediately just go right and say, yeah, I believe in it, but I also don't want to just go out and say, no.
Mhm.
I feel like saying either one is too absolutist on the
Mhm.
on the whole, because I haven't really had many, if any, experiences myself on what would constitute as something paranormal or even ghostly or something that would make its way into the show Ghost Hunters. It's more of a curiosity.
Okay. I myself am a skeptic. I don't believe in ghosts. I would absolutely love to be wrong. And I think there are lingering passions that can linger or something like that. I don't think it's a full on like ghost. I like my biggest thing is like I love when people say, "Ooh, an orb." What the fuck are you talking about, an orb? I see a piece of dust on a fucking camera, and you're calling it an orb.
Hey man, ghosts are energy, It's a
Ghosts
ball
are
of energy,
orbs.
yeah. No, I totally understand that. I'm right with you, and I think the show that we're gonna see today is gonna definitely agree with you.
Oh yeah, we just went through the first episode and we took a bunch of notes. We want to go through it with you. Let's start out. How did the episode start? Borky Poo.
It's pretty sudden. You get past the intro scene, and suddenly you're just smack dab in this lady's house, and
Yeah, they did not do any build up at all. It's like they wanted to do the I can't remember what it's called, the closed open or something, the fast open, where they were like, oh, here's the shot that will get everybody into the show, and then we go back and then explain the cold open. That's what it's called.
okay.
When you just like you get into the action, you get straight into it. They didn't show anything in the cold open.
No.
They like I've seen episodes later on where they do the like next up or what's gonna happen next or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
This cold open did not have any montage or anything. It was just them going, "Oh my god, I think I heard something. Did you hear something? I heard something.
Did you die here?
Did you die?"
Brian's questioning, I swear.
Yeah, so do we want to go over just like the people that are in this episode? There's Grant, who's the heart of the episode, the heart of the show.
He really is.
Jason, I wrote the heat.
The heat. Steve, Tech Man.
And then my favorite person that had 3 lines throughout the whole thing. He started out his intro was, "I'm a demonologist." Carl. His name is fucking Carl. It's a fucking demon. I love anybody that's like obsessed with demons or like into I love that shit. And I loved it. And he said 3 lines throughout the whole show.
Yeah, he's not going to make too much of an appearance. I'm sorry to tell you, throughout the whole show.
Demonology, I love that stuff.
Carl is actually a twin. He has a twin brother
Oh.
who's on the show. You'll get to see him later.
Okay.
I don't remember his name because he is rarely on the show, though.
Oh no.
But Carl is an interesting character to take note of because he really represents, I think, what sets the first few seasons apart from the rest of the show and how it builds itself up. And the whole point of Ghost Hunters when it started was to go to people's homes and help people out, just try to get them some answers. And Carl is one of the people who Taps will call in when a family has a definite more religious approach to things, if they prove to be more religious.
Carl was the one doing
He does the blessings.
Okay, just the blessings.
Yes.
I didn't even realize that was the same guy.
So yes, it was Carl doing the blessings, and you'll actually get to see him do a few more, I do believe, especially at homes. And Carl's role will unfortunately not really expand very much beyond that, but he really does set. His character, I really enjoyed, and I really think it sets a tone for the first few seasons of what the show is supposed to be about. Just helping people at home, and if you're religious, especially, he will be there and offer you your prayer services at your home to cleanse your home, essentially.
So right after the cold open, what they do, they set up the whole show by bowling.
Yes.
I've got a ghost story about bowling, and I wrote this down.
Okay.
Because I have a ghost story. There's an old man that I was friends with a long time ago. I come into his room and everything. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? Blah blah blah. And he starts talking to me about bowling and shit. Like, shut the fuck up. Shut up. So he starts talking to me about bowling, and I was in bowling in school. And he asked me, what's your bowling average? And I go, oh, well, I was in varsity bowling, so I was 177 was about my bowling. And he goes, oh, that's respectable. That's respectable. Then he talks about his bowling, and he's like a 200, around that range. Then he asks me, so, what was your bowling average?
Oh, no.
And I go, 177. And he goes, oh, that's respectable. So we start talking about other things, and he goes, so what's your bowling? I felt like I was talking to a goddamn ghost. I was talking to a ghost.
The poor man couldn't remember. That's so sad.
So that was what I wrote down. I wanted everybody to get that part of my character in the first episode of this.
The bowling, I think, does a really good job, though, at demonstrating the dichotomy that stands between Grant and Jason.
Yeah,
because those two are very different characters.
Oh yeah, you can see in the bowling thing where Grant's like having a fun time, kind of reserved and everything, and Jason's like, the fucking land isn't working.
Oh, and you even get to see a little bit of Jason playing with Grant and with the computer. Handling their scores. And that's supposed to tell you, it introduces you to Grant being the techie of the entire team. He's the guy that has the technical background, even though they have different tech managers on the actual team, so that Grant can focus his efforts elsewhere. But the intro does a very good job, I think, of at least getting you an idea of the two main casts that you're going to see for quite a while.
You know, I'm actually the only celebrity I've ever met, like out in the wild. I was also bowling.
You were bowling too.
I was bowling, and their lane didn't work, and because I was playing there so often, I knew how to fix the lane. So I walked over, fixed the lane, and I went, by the way, I really liked you in Ink Master, Ryan Ashley. And she was just like, oh hi, and then we yapped for a little bit. It was really cool.
That's incredible. Cool. That is actually incredible. This was locally too?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool that you saw something like that over there.
Cool. Stupid that they were in random ass fucking part of the country.
Yeah, really, right?
But so then they get into like showing like the different parts of their lives. They're plumbers.
Yep.
I don't know why they're Mario and Luigi. Like, I don't fucking get that.
Dude, that's real, by the way.
I wanted to say that once they start going into the ghost stuff again, the Taps logo and the Taps room and everything, I immediately looked at it and I was like, it looks like a parody. It looks like a parody sketch. Like, it doesn't look like a real room that they do ghost hunter stuff. It looks like a YouTube parody sketch of like what a ghost hunters thing would look like. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. It's just... I think that's really funny that you say that. How do I even word this? They were before the TV show, their whole thing was just operating out of that trailer. That's all
Yeah.
they had, the trailer, and then whatever technology that Jason could scrounge up. And I love that Jason, by the way, through the first few, it's going to be the first few seasons, by the way, that he'll do this. He's anyone who messes with his equipment has to buy it again. If they break it, if something breaks, they have to buy it. And there's going to be more that happens over the coming seasons, including an attempted robbery that we'll get to see on camera.
Oh, we love that.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But they did not have a lot of funds to work with before the TV show.
Okay.
So, but it is really funny that you say it's like a
Yeah, it does seem very like real, I guess. Like
yes.
Even the Roto-Rooter stuff is kind of goofy. Like you can tell that they are skilled and they know what they're doing with the plumbing stuff, but it is goofy that it's happening.
Yeah.
I thought it is silly.
The Roto-Rooter stuff really will also be a handy perk, especially for those two, as they go through investigations of specific. It helps them on all of them for the most part, especially if there's stuff with ductwork. But even if there's on the more rare occasion there's plumbing issues, and I don't really want to spoil too much, but in one season there's one episode where one guy has them go into their building, and it's actually kind of a joke bar.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, it's a bar building, but they've set up a bunch of traps for people to get scared by. But he was telling them, who had no idea, hey, this is what people are experiencing in my restaurant or my bar.
Oh.
And then when the ghost hunters went through, they learned like a mirror can come off the wall, and behind it they saw that the face is installed behind the mirror.
Oh, okay.
But which really ticked them off that it was actually a fake.
Yeah.
And it was being offed as a real thing.
Mm.
But yeah, being plumbers will definitely be an asset for them.
I was going to bring this up later in the show, but I think this is a good point to bring it up. I think it's very smart of them to have this other thing, and like if they were really plumbers before or not, I don't. So let's just go through this. You've watched the whole show.
I've watched it many times. Yes.
I have not seen most of it. I've seen like bits and pieces throughout my life. I've watched random episodes throughout my life, and I love this type of stuff. I watch a lot of like Ghost Hunters things, but that's like on YouTube now, rather than watching it on a TV show.
Yeah,
I was going somewhere with this. the Roto-Rooter stuff, and if it like is real that they were Roto-Rooter or whatever, I think it's so smart, because then whenever they do actually start making money for the show or start like working for this, or even in the first episode, it's product placement, and they can charge people for them, their name working for them on their home or their building, or their like if it's a bar or if it's something like that, you can have their logo, and then they're like, this is where we're working. It's very smart. Yes. They were very smart to start that, because it happens in this first episode. It's like wherever they're working, they show the logo of the thing. That's so smarticle particles.
I kind of want to play on that too a little bit, or talk on that, especially the part where you said it feels more real earlier. That was part of the reason why I came back to watch the show after so many years. It was about 3 or 4 years ago is when I really started to watch the show earnestly again, after having not seen it for 15 or some years. Is because I remember it didn't feel scripted. It didn't feel fake to me.
It felt a lot more authentic.
It did. And they actually are, or were, Roto-Rooter employees at one point. Grant, they did say in the first episode, Grant actually used to work in IT in the 90s. I think maybe the late 80s, but definitely through the 90s. He was in IT, and he wanted a change of pace in his life. So Jason took him in to work at Roto-Rooter, and they became partners, essentially, at the company.
That's super cool. I love it because they are knowledgeable, and like as a maintenance person, the way that they just yap at each other and they like dig at each other while they're working, that was so real. Like literally today, I'm working outside in this blistering heat, and my manager and I are like, can you hurry the fuck up, dude? Like, hurry up. And I'm like, bro, it's fucking hot outside. What, you want me to go faster? And he's like, I don't want to fucking sweat anymore. Like, that's real. Yeah. And the way that they talk to each other, even when they're working together in those tight spaces and stuff, it made the show for me. Like, it made so much sense. It was real.
The best part about being able to see them act in that way is it not only helps people connect how they might want to be in their job or how they actually are as well, but they get to do that both at their day job and in their hobby after the fact too, in doing ghost hunters, because they'll describe it later too as for a long time the TAPS team, they say, really felt like a fraternity is how they would describe it. It's more of a fraternity.
that makes sense. They feel very family. They feel very like tight knit. This is who we are.
I'm really excited for you to get to see the rest of season 1 after this already.
I have ADHD, by the way, and I have terminal stupidity. My brain just jumped back. I just thought about it. We're both kind of skeptics. So spirits and skeptics might as well. The spirits must just be me drinking the alcohol the whole time.
Yeah, I think so too. Cheers, by the way.
Cheers. They get into the TAPS building in this episode, and then the first thing that they really talk about is the number one thing is to disapprove the haunting.
Yes, to disprove the haunting, absolutely.
And I thought that was interesting because watching the show later on, like in the random bits and pieces, I never thought of that. I never thought of that at all. Like throughout the show, the random episodes that I did watch, I always just like thought, man, this is kind of cheesy. They're making up scenarios of like this haunting happening, and they're trying to prove that it is really happening. But they say the exact opposite in the first episode. Yes. It's like that they're trying to disprove it.
As we go through the seasons, and I talked to you about this before we started recording this too, but one of the big things that this show has, as I've noticed watching it numerous times over, too many times that shouldn't be legal at this point, but I've spent a lot of time watching the show. I really enjoy it. My mother has watched it with me as well numerous times. And the number one thing that happens throughout the show is you can tell there's various points, starting with specific seasons, and I would say season 3 and 4 are definitely one of the big changing points. Season 8 to 9 are a massive change in how the show is actually run. But as you go through the seasons, you can start to see how they change the way that they approach investigations.
Yeah.
And how the team dynamics change as the members involved also change. Because there will be, unfortunately, like Carl and his twin, they'll start to disappear. Donna and Brian, after season 3, just get cut from the show, essentially. They just suddenly are gone. Season 2 will definitely have a lot of that drama, by the way, with Brian. So
okay, yeah, I was gonna say I have this written later on, but Brian's kind of feels like he's just there for the drama in the first episode. I feel like it was kind of shoehorned in.
Oh, okay.
It almost felt fake. That was like the most fake thing that I've felt in this first episode. And they're going after ghosts, and that's the most fake thing to me.
Yeah,
is there bickering because he lost his job? Who the fuck cares? Why are you mad at that? Like that feels so fake.
They're trying to get you emotionally involved with him because the reality is, Brian outside of the show, especially after his involvement when he was done with the show, because I believe Jason does kick him off the show after season 3. He's gone. He doesn't want him in TAPS anymore.
Yeah.
You'll get to see this more in season 2, especially. They were actually really good friends with Brian Arnois for a long time before the show. Jason has been there to help him out. And Brian has an interesting history behind him. And it's not that he's necessarily a dumb guy, but he's a bit too awkward of a character to be on the TV show.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as TAPS expanded, especially after season 1, when the show proved to be a really popular success, is Brian's place in the show didn't feel real. And as you described, it felt shoehorned in. And I feel bad for the guy because that's how a lot of people felt. Is he didn't feel like a good character. He wasn't a good fit for the show. He wasn't a good fit for doing all that when he's on camera.
Yeah.
And as Jason will note later on, is he has a tendency to lose the equipment or not know how to set it up in a good amount of time too.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's what happens right away in the first episode. Is that it's like you're supposed to label the equipment before you use it or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, this feels goofy. Like this doesn't feel real. Like why was this happening in the first episode? Set up your characters before you run them down. I guess.
Yeah, sure.
And then it just felt like if it was a real like already annoyed with him like messing up the equipment,
Yeah.
don't do it in the first episode. Like skip over that just so you like can then the second episode go like, bro, you fucked up this in the last episode. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
Because you made it harder or something. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I might be wrong on this, so I don't take this as fact. But if I remember correctly, they recorded a few episodes first, and then they started editing them afterwards. And I think that the producer caught on to the feeling that both Jason and Grant did not particularly enjoy having Brian around all the time, or they felt him as a nuisance. And the show, I think, as whoever was directing or producing, I shouldn't say directing because I don't think they was a producer. Craig Piligian, I think, was his name. He I think structured Brian's character to be someone. I almost want to call it a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
I think he wanted him off the show too, to be honest.
Okay.
Because clearly Jason didn't like the way that he was handling the equipment, didn't want him as tech lead, which you'll get to see later as well. I keep saying this, but we're only on episode 1. There's a lot to go over at the show. Yeah. Grant even was told by Jason, hey, can you manage him for the second episode, which we haven't seen yet, but Grant's going to be tasked with handling Brian for the second episode, and that's not going to go very well because...
Well, I was going to say, in the first episode, they immediately do the, like, Jason tells Grant, hey, why don't you just, like, if Brian does something annoying this weekend, you take care of him.
Yep.
And I was like, bro, this is the first episode. You're pissing people off already. Like, if Brian sees this on TV, he's pissed at you.
Yeah.
And, like, that's annoying.
Yes.
He drove by himself in his own truck following you for 8 hours.
Yep.
You should not be treating him like that.
Well, I think that goes to show just how long that this situation has occurred for, and now that it's being aired on television, how much are they actually holding back for the camera?
Yeah.
In this regard, it's really hard to express over the television network just how serious the situation with Brian is going to prove to be.
So, they go to Altoona, PA.
Altoona, Pennsylvania. Yes.
Altoona.
Mm-hmm.
Altoona. They spell it weird. I was looking it up because I was trying to figure out like where it was. I would not have spelled it like that. Altoona. It looked like Cartoona.
Oh. Altoona, Pennsylvania?
Altoona. Altoona.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It looks like cartoon. Toon.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh.
Fuck you.
What's up, though? What do we got?
Nothing. That's it.
That's it? Okay.
That's it. We get there, and then once we get to there, it's... Okay, we go through, and they get to the place, and they're looking at all the houses and everything, and then they show, like, an upward shot of the house. It's a fucking barn. That is not a fucking house, by the way. That is built like a goddamn barn. Why does it look like that?
I wish I could comment more on that, but I don't know the history of Altoona, Pennsylvania.
It looks like a motherfucking barn, bro. They're all 2 inches away. They could fucking bum each other's Wi-Fi's from ech other.
2004, yeah, I'm not much Wi-Fi's going on.
Damn close to each other, dog.
Did you see that woman's computer in her basement, by the way?
No, I didn't.
That thing was as beige could be. That was a 90s looking computer right down there.
No, that was my first computer. That was my first fucking computer. Was a beige, gigantic piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know what? The only thing I did on it is play the Quidditch game.
Oh,
Harry Potter Quidditch. Yeah, that's all I played.
I remember you showing me that.
EA Sports. It's in the game. And I'm like, why are you EA Sportsing in front of... I'm Harry Potter!
I totally get it.
So that's what she's playing. She's playing that the whole time while they're looking for spirits. She's playing Hogwarts Quidditch.
Maybe that's where the sounds are coming up.
Okay, so I wrote this down because you said this during the episode, and maybe we should like record it while we're watching the episode from now on, but probably not tonight if we watch another episode. But Brenda is the girl that we've gone to her house and we're looking at this, and then she looks at the 4 spirits, and the 4 spirits are shown on the screen.
Yeah.
And you said that this is the first time and the only time that happens, that they show like what they think the characters look like.
Yeah.
or this spirit.
So at the start, I wish I could get like a clip of this. I do have the files on my drive that I could share with him for editing at some point. But essentially, it
Bold of
shows.
you to assume I'm editing.
Yeah. Essentially, you get a shot of I believe it's the girl's room, who is experiencing the majority of the supposed haunting at that location. And what happens is it shows 4 names across the screen, vertically aligned, and I believe they're 2 child spirits, an old man and an older woman. And never again in the show, as far as I'm aware, do I see anything like that, especially for home investigations. They never again show that level of detail for what the inhabitants of the home believe are to be what is haunting their location, or at least causing some paranormal activity. It's the only time I'm aware of that happening.
I find it super interesting because I like that part of the show. So I like that part where they're like showing the thing. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
And then they gave up on it.
I believe that. So if you go through the show more and more, just that episode, especially when you get to the evidence part, they don't link it with anything. So I think that's why they got rid of it, is because the ghost hunters, the taps, sorry, I should just say taps, part of their thing is not assuming or attaching an identity to any of the spirits, because they can't actually just, sure, you can say that they can do that, and in a few episodes they do, but for the most part, if you ask, what's your name, how old are you, so on and so forth, typically their responses are either they don't get any, or they only get one of those questions answered at best.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the episode, or shortly before the investigation begins, showing what is actually haunting the home and then not being able to attach that to anything with the evidence, I think is part of the reason that they actually removed it.
I guess that does make sense. I think for me, watching like the newer like YouTube haunting stuff, like BuzzFeed Unsolved and what became of BuzzFeed Unsolved and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of, they don't really do it that much, but they talk about who they think the spirits are, and then they show pictures of like the actual people that like used to exist there or something like that.
Sure.
And so they kind of do like an investigation almost before the investigation of like who these spirits are.
Yeah.
And so I like that.
I don't mean to attack on the YouTubers going about doing this, but part of the reason Taps doesn't like to do that is because they're coming in with presumptions for the investigation.
I guess there are a lot of that in that first episode where they kind of go, I don't want to have any presumptions of like where this is. And the only time they have something where they go, oh, this is what we think is happening, is when they hear the like things at the end. And they're like, this is what I think they're saying.
Yeah.
And then they go, but we're not going to do that to her. We're going to let her figure out or think about what this sounds like.
Yeah. There's other episodes, well, quite a lot of the show, I would say, at least until the very later seasons, does a good job at least of sticking to this part of Taps, which I do respect, is not walking into the premises of the investigation with presumptions on who or what it could be that's haunting the location.
Yeah.
Because the moment you do that is the moment you start tainting your mind with how you should question and how you should approach the investigation. And the idea is to just disprove the haunting to begin with. You don't want to go in expecting a haunting and then you leave dissatisfied, because when you go talk to your client, how does that leave them feeling? Yeah. You want to approach it from, how can I disprove the fact that something's here? And you want to be left with the inability to disprove it, essentially.
Sorry, I'm teaching him how to podcast. I've only had one podcast before this, but I'm teaching you how to podcast.
You definitely watch a lot more of these than I do.
I watch a lot of podcasts, but I do have another podcast that we've posted once every year.
Oh, my. This is a good pace.
Oh, man.
What do you have next?
So, the next thing that I have, like, in where the show was going, I wrote that Brenda's daughter looks like Dora the Explorer. Okay. What? And why the fuck does Dora the Explorer have 2 goddamn Annabelle dolls on her bed no wonder why she's getting haunted. She's got 2 fucking Annabelle dolls on her fucking bed.
At the point of recording this, this child was 3 years old when the show was recorded, and watching it, she's probably about 24 now. I wish I could make a comment more on what's going on with her dolls.
She has 2 Annabelle dolls. That is the like haunted doll.
Was it considered haunted in the 2000s?
You know what Annabelle is?
No, I'm not actually aware.
Okay,
Not.
you know that. Oh my gosh, you're not. The thing is you're the like. Oh, I love Ghost Hunters. Oh, I love this show and the other shows that branch off from it. And I'm the like horror guy.
Okay.
Annabelle.
Mhm.
You know the movie. My brain is shut off. I'm gonna cut all of this out, so you can't prove that I did anything stupid. I think The Conjuring, is that what it's called?
The Conjuring. They do actually visit the Conjuring home a few times, so I'm at least aware of the overarching story of it.
So the Conjuring home and the Conjuring place and everything is where the Annabelle doll came from. There was a doll that is haunted by a thing and is literally like in a museum talking about the Conjuring house and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It is in a museum and it is in a box because it is so haunted that and like all these haunted items and stuff are kind of out for display.
Yeah.
This Annabelle doll is in a glass box because it is so haunted. Even the fucking people that own the place are scared of it.
That's incredible. And this girl's
fucking doll.
This girl's just got 2 of them.
What?
She just got 2 of them, right? 2.
She's scary. She's scary. This little Dora the Explorer got 2 of them.
What do you have next?
The next thing I have is actually for like so. We watching the first episode. We're watching it on Pluto.
Yes. For now, we'll be watching on Pluto.
Just because right after the Annabelle dolls were shown, Big Brother was shown, and the tribe has spoken, and they write the person's name down. They write down fucking Dora the Explorer, and I just wrote the tribe has spoken. We're fucking kicking off Dora the Explorer from the episode.
Good lord.
Okay, the next thing I want to talk about the music.
Yeah.
The music throughout this whole thing.
I'm so glad we get to talk about this, actually.
Go ahead. Go ahead, and also speak up.
Yeah, okay. The music of Ghost Hunters is oft criticized. If you don't know, Jason Hawes of the show now has his own YouTube channel, and he uploads content to that.
Okay.
Pretty frequently, and he still does investigations, but with a new guy. It's not a team anymore. It's just JV, and sometimes he'll tag his child along, his kid. Mm-hmm. His kid's like 20 plus years old now. So much of the comments of those YouTube videos is, I'm so glad he got rid of the music. There's no more music. And I don't know, I feel like the few people in that crowd that disagrees. I really like the way that the music really built the atmosphere. I mean, you have to remember, I came from playing Luigi's Mansion. I love the sound of the haunted hallways.
I think the haunted, like, the music and stuff can work. It can work.
Yeah.
But when the spike in the music is every 30 seconds for, like, a new thing that they're saying, and all of it is vaguely Egyptian in this first episode for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, they have, like, the Egyptian, like, instruments for no reason. Why? Dora the Explorer has nothing to do with the Egyptians.
So, I wish I could explain the choice of music that they used. Unfortunately, I can't really comment too much on that, but there are a couple of songs, as we'll go through the show, that really stuck out to me over the long term, and I call one of them the bloop song. It makes bloop sounds, and they have the typical sound effects of like a sci-fi show, reality sci-fi show that try to build tension or really carry the atmosphere of the situation and build it in your head for you. But they also do. The reason they criticize some of the music on the YouTube comments is because it interrupted how you audibly listened for the cues that the team was actually hearing while they were on the investigation. And I think that's something that the producer and the audio team that edited the video could have easily, or the show could have easily fixed themselves. But I still really like the music. I like it. I like the weird Egyptian sounds.
I do like that when you have a lack of music, you notice it.
Yes. On Jason's channel, you do.
And the thing is when you have bad music, you also notice it.
Yes.
I think the
It
best thing about a track or a thing is that you don't notice it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a thing of reality TV that you notice the music because they have it so prevalent in the narrative.
Yes.
Is that the music is in the narrative of this story.
It's building your emotional response to the show.
I just think it could be lesser. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Speaking of music,
Uh-huh.
let's have an intermission.
Let's have an intermission? Okay. All right. So the topic that I want to bring up real quick, going back to Brian, his need for evidence.
Oh,
I think he mentioned it in the first episode, if I remember correctly. To be honest, I did have some alcohol, so maybe I misheard. But I know for at least the coming episodes as well, he always has a need to. He doesn't approach investigation when Taps wants to investigate. He doesn't come in with a desire to disprove. He wants to prove a haunting instead of disprove a haunting.
okay.
So he has a need to get evidence. As you'll see in coming episodes as well, especially for the first couple of seasons, is you were commenting about it earlier, is the ghost orb thing. The Gorbies.
The Gorbers.
The Gorbers, yeah. Those are going to be terribly annoying for the first part. And honestly, ever since this show, especially since how hard Jason comes down on them for the ghost orb thing, any ghost show or YouTube video or whatever, I cannot take ghost orbs as any valid evidence.
Oh no!
Even in Phasmo, I think it's a joke. It's too comedic.
Yeah, Phasmophobia, also the stupidest game ever made. By the way, he loves Phasmophobia.
I play too much.
I think Phasmophobia is fun. My problem with it is people game the system. It's a game, obviously.
Yeah.
And you can have tryhards, but I'm like, damn, everybody in this game is tryharding. I just want to walk around and act kind of stupid while things are happening that are scary.
The problem with Phasmo is that things aren't scary anymore. They need to get Horror 2.0 out fast.
Uh-huh.
I really think they do. But I think we're getting too off track at this point. Brian's evidence, his need for it, it's very annoying. The ghost orbs, they're going to be a growing pain in the ass as we go through this.
So speaking of ghost orbs and stuff like that, they kind of go through. I had a little bit of quandary with the first episode where they just kind of use ghost evidence and ghost equipment without any explanation. And,
I see.
And I already know how things work,
Sure.
but I thought about it as like people that don't know what's going on. It looks like they're just recording things without anything else, and they're going around going, "Fucking do something."
That
do
isn't,
something.
that's a good point.
And they do use some things that they just don't they don't explain because it isn't used later when they use it for evidence. In the moment, they just kind of do things without explaining it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know what they're doing, but they don't explain it.
Yeah.
And so other people won't.
This is kind of a byproduct of they've been doing this for 15 years prior, and suddenly they're thrust on a television program, essentially.
Yeah.
One of the first things that Jason mentions about equipment, though, is he says there's very little equipment that fits our needs in this field, so we have to take equipment from other industries and modify it for our purposes. Which I thought was an interesting line. And as the show progresses, though, you will see them start to over-explain every time they bring up the equipment on a new episode on what the purpose of the equipment is supposed to be.
Yeah. Watching Ghost Files
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube, they explain everything every time, but they kind of have like a quick explanation.
Okay.
And so while it gets annoying where I'm like, okay, I already know what this does, it makes sense for anybody that's new.
Yeah.
And I just noticed that because I'm so used to them explaining.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, some fuckers just don't know what's happening.
Yeah. I'm glad you did bring that up, though, that they didn't explain the piece, because I didn't even actually recognize that. I'm so used to them doing it that I didn't even look for it this time, because I actually tried to ignore it every time they bring up the EMF field. They have pre-recorded segments that they'll inject into every episode after a piece of equipment is mentioned on what its purpose is.
Yep.
That it doesn't even come to my mind anymore.
In one ear, out of the other.
Yeah, literally that. I do want to say this
Yeah.
too, real quick, on the equipment. There will be a couple of pieces that, especially in the early seasons, where someone in the TAPS team that you don't usually see in the investigations has developed a piece of technology for them to use on the show, and they'll actually lead or pave the way to actual equipment being produced in the later show, like genuine professional.
Oh, that's super cool.
One of them is the geosensor to check for any footstep movement.
Yeah.
So
that's super cool.
You'll get to see that, I think, in season 1 or 2.
Super cool. Is there anything you want to talk about? Or should we talk about maybe the investigation? Or
I think just before we get into the investigation, Donna. Do you remember Donna from the show?
Oh, the girl that showed up for like 1 second.
Yeah, basically her. Yes. I can't even remember her role in the first.
The only thing that I noticed about her in the first episode is that she's wearing white booty shorts. The only thing that I noticed, because that was the most of like her screen time. She introduced herself, and then she was standing facing away from the camera with booty shorts.
Oh my good lord. Poor Donna.
We can skip this part. We can edit this out.
Donna gives I think some pretty interesting advice.
Yeah.
To at least one of maybe I think it was to the camera, not to one of the members, but it's it was to the homeowner. She was talking to the homeowner one-on-one, and she says the number one thing that you can do is don't feed them the fear. Is kind of how you would shorten it.
Okay.
What she said, shortening what she said is don't feed them fear, because that's how they'll keep interacting with you in ways you don't want them to. But if you want to talk about the investigation, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I really, I guess for 1 millisecond before we get into the investigation, I like that they had like this. They started it with one person. I can't even remember who they did it for. This is my individual ghost experience and why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't one of the main two, and it wasn't Carl.
It wasn't Carl. Was it Steve?
It might have been Steve. It was Steve.
Yeah.
Because I remember everybody else's name. So it must have been Steve.
Steve Gonzalez.
He said that he went to a grave and he had an experience, and then decided that later on that was the reason why he wanted to come back and start helping other people. Through this. And I thought that was interesting, and I like that element, and I hope I see more of that. Like they all go through their own individual experiences with ghosts outside of the show, or any of them other than just him. Because if that is the first and last time, I'm gonna get mad.
Okay, so you need to say like explain to me what you're getting at with wanting.
I just any of them. I think like if they have that, they only did it for like 10 seconds in the show. Yeah, where they're like, hey, this is him. This is his ghost experience. Why he's doing it.
Yeah, the background.
I want a background for all of them. I want this is the voice, the backstory. This is what I want to hear. It doesn't even need to be a big segment. Yeah. I just want like a second of like I want to know them a little bit more, because like we know the characters, like we know Grant, we know Jason because of that, but I want to hear like a second of their like why they're doing that. Why are they ghost hunting?
Sure.
They talk about it being like we've been doing this for a long time, but like what's their ghost experience of like why they want to do this? Nope. I just want that.
I think as new characters are introduced, you'll get either from Jason or Grant or from the person themselves. You'll get to hear a little bit more.
That's cool.
Depending on what happens per investigation, you'll get to also hear if they've experienced something like that before.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're talking about specifically on this episode, the first one, is the producers just trying to give you some background. But I do think it was pretty rushed on how they, at least to me, I thought it was a little rushed. I do want a little bit more background because we got to see them as
I do. I do think it was like kind of just put in there, but I did like that segment.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would compared to here's the 4 ghosts that are supposedly haunting the home. I do much prefer the here's a little bit of our backstory and here's why we got into the field. I think they could have done a little bit more with that.
So speaking of the 4 ghosts,
yes.
What do you think about the actual process of like them looking into the ghost and like the whole thing? What do you think of the investigation?
The early investigations I would describe as disorganized, 100%.
I think this first one was very disorganized, but I also think it had to be sped up because they had so much setup. They had to set up so much to like introduce us to the people that they kind of just went, here's the place, here's the scary thing, here's that, bye.
Yeah.
They kind of had to rush it towards the end.
A lot of that's going to be editing.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll be in a person's home until like 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I like those. I like the longer ones.
But the problem is that you won't usually get to see it on the episode.
Mm.
They'll give you in later. I'm not quite sure how much they did it in the first episode, but I would say it's less noticeable in the first few seasons compared to season 5 or 6 and onwards. Is when they cut to a different part of the investigation, they'll put the timestamp down at the bottom left, so you know what time it was that they were doing things at. They don't really do that too much in the first part because it's so disorganized. And the other part is that in some of the early episodes, they have to work around the families when they have kids still in the home sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to pace themselves at times and be quieter than they usually would be.
Yeah, I do like the investigation in this. That's like I think that's everybody's favorite part in the show, of like them looking for the evidence, doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
I know there's probably some people that just skip to the end and go, "Is there any evidence?"
Yeah,
but I do like the investigation part of it,
mm-hmm.
and I wanted to see more, but it's the first episode. They have to set up everything. They're not going to have a lot of time. So a lot of it was just them walking around with fucking microphones going like, "Tell me something."
Yeah, I know where you're coming from with this, and that it's, for me, it's the charm of the first season. It's getting everything set up. It's you get to see the last of how they were before they had a TV crew following them.
Yeah.
This is how the team dynamics were. This is how they investigated. This was how everything was set up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so disorganized. And it looked, when you look back on it, and if you've watched a lot of the show like I have, you will see how far they came in the later shows versus when they first started. And it really becomes like watching old footage of yourself at times. You can see the way that you just were and the way that you did things, and you just it looks childish at times. It is incredible to see though how far they'll come in advance as we go through. But yes, the first season is, for someone new to the show, I think this will be kind of an interesting to say. If I were to introduce someone to Ghost Hunters now, I wouldn't show them the first season. I would show them, I have a list of specific episodes that I've actually compiled myself that I would show them first.
I mean, this isn't even the first episode that you've shown me of the show. Like, you knew that I've watched the show, like, randomly. Mm-hmm. And the first episode that you showed me was episode 5?
I think it was season 5, episode 1. I think. It was at least, it was season 1, episode 5. It was The Asylum.
That's what I thought. State. Season 1, episode 5, because you said season 5, episode 1. I got scared.
Yeah, sorry,
that's not what I thought.
It was season 1, episode 5.
Yeah, The Asylum is the one that you showed me months and months before. Yeah. And the reason why we're doing this podcast now is because I was like, yeah, this would be fun to do. This would be fun as hell.
There's for season 1, there'll be a couple of really good episodes. Mm-hmm. Intermixed with the quite quirky randomness.
Let's hate on Brian.
Let's hate on Brian and be very disorganized as we go about it.
So they do the investigation, and there really isn't a lot in this one.
No, there's not a lot of substance. It's a lot.
But go ahead.
It's not a lot of. I completely agree. The substance is lacking in the first episode, 100%. The best parts literally on this episode are the end.
So in the beginning of the investigation and the end of the investigation, I was going to say that I am very interested with the religious stuff, because I didn't know this was in the show at all.
Okay.
So for me, as a person that is like into horror and into like knowing the history of like where stuff came from, I love religious like symbolism and stuff. A lot of like ghosts and a lot of like vampires and like other creatures and stuff nowadays it is like you have to have the cross, you have to have the like Christian thing. Originally it didn't matter what religious symbol you had, it just mattered that you had one.
Okay.
Because that, like, having a higher power, having somebody like behind your side on you was what helped you. And so there's a lot of, like, some of the oldest tales of vampires. It was before Christianity. So it was like they had the Jewish symbol on them, and that's what helped them. Or they had whatever symbol they had on them, and that's what repelled the evil spirit.
Okay.
And so I found it super interesting here, because while it doesn't really matter what religious symbol you have, in like modern day, it's almost always the cross.
Okay. Yeah. And, sorry.
And as a Christian, they're right. I'm kidding.
I think that's interesting. You bring up the religious part about helping the person. You said it was the person holding this, or at least the characters involved with it. Yeah. For Taps, especially with Carl, it's less about him, and it's more, or really about the team. It's more about how can we help the people that have called us over. And one of the things that Taps did say at the start is, we don't charge you a dime if you call us and we come investigate. We do it for free, because for them, they've had their own experiences, as they note in the first episode at some point. Sorry. Can't help but laugh. I know I'm getting too far away from this microphone here. I've lost my track now. No.
The religious symbolism, and then why they're doing it. They're doing it to make the people feel better.
Yeah, so it's less about them. It's more about helping the people that call them in, because they've experienced things themselves, and they have a family now. And if both of them do, Jason and Grant, I believe, both have. I think they both have children. Grant, maybe. Actually, you know what? I'm not 100% sure on Grant, but I know Jason is going to have 5 children at least I think it's 5 children as the show progresses. In that
5
time.
Children too many.
Essentially, they look at it as if, hey, if I were in their position and I had, children and my wife, and we are having unexplainable occurrences happening, we didn't know how to resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
Who can you call? Because you can't just call 911 and have the police stop over. What are they going to do? And they wanted to provide. They look at what they do as more of a public service, which I thought was a very interesting thing, especially even just entering season 1.
Yeah, I do like that. I do like that. I didn't know that. And I didn't know that they didn't charge anybody for this stuff. I think that's super noble and super nice of them to help people. And just make them feel better about where they are, or either that they're being heard, or that or an explanation to what they're hearing.
Yeah.
And what they're seeing.
You won't get to hear this, I think, for a little bit, but Jason mentions 80% of the cases they come across can be explained away. Essentially, 80% of the evidence that they come across is explainable. Like
Tato salad.
Yeah, like Tato salad.
Okay, and so they did the thing, not towards the end, but towards the end of the episode, where they start showing the evidence and everything, and they show the kid voice, or whatever, the kid ghost voice going, it sounds like he's saying Tato salad. It's Tato salad. Why is he talking about potato salad?
They don't want us.
No, it didn't say they don't want us. They said, I want Tato salad.
You know what? Fine. Maybe kid's just hungry. Literally. Who doesn't want some Tato salad?
I mean, if you're a ghost, what are you eating?
It's not Tato salad.
It's not? It's not?
No.
That's why he's craving it.
All right. What else do you got?
I wrote something, and I wrote it so fast that I cannot read it. It says...
Something, man, remind me.
Comrade?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't know what you wrote there.
I don't know.
This man literally wrote so fast it's illegible. And now he's dyslexic too.
Do you have stuff for me?
I'm really curious to have your take on how you feel about, just the first episode compared to the episode that I showed you about.
I like that first episode that you showed me, the episode 5, so we'll get there eventually while we get to this podcast. I like that episode more, but I have a problem with random drama that pisses me off, and I feel like there's a lot more random drama in that episode you showed me a long time ago than there is here. It's kind of just shoehorned in here. It almost seems like it's something that's from an episode or 2 from now that they added into here.
Okay.
It almost feels like it was just shoehorned in to make it a problem before it was a problem.
Oh, I see.
So for this episode, it didn't feel like that bad. In episode 5, I guess, that it felt like it was okay, this almost feels like this feels produced. This feels scripted almost.
Sure.
Where it's we're just mad at this guy now. This guy's pissing us off.
My next thing is, what do you, other than Tato salad, what do you take away from the evidence that they collected? The supposed evidence, I suppose. Skeptics and all.
I think there is a really loud kid in the house right next door.
A really loud kid in the house next door.
Yeah,
okay.
Because and all those houses were 2 inches from each other, and you're telling me on the second floor you hear da, 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 and that's evidence? That's somebody in the next house over screaming. That's what it is.
And it sounds like whispering on the
Yes.
tape track.
Yes. I don't think that's real evidence.
You don't think it's
To
real?
me,
Okay.
I don't see it as real evidence. Do you see it as real evidence?
I think I'd be more willing to accept it than you would be.
I feel like I'm more willing to accept that it's the first episode and they want to show evidence.
You know, it's hard to disagree with that because it is incredible that on the first episode, after just the way that the camera team and the whole show is edited, that investigation was really hard to follow along. And suddenly because usually later on in the show, and you'll see this and you'll even hear it, is at times the production cameras that the TV crew has will pick up the sounds that their voice recorders actually do as well.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
And those I find really believable because even the camera team is at times you'll hear something, and before even Jason and Grant or whoever the investigators are, the camera team will flip first as to because your natural instinct is to just look at the sound source, right?
Yeah.
And when something just talks to you out of the blue in the middle of a dark hallway,
yeah, that's cool. I like that.
That kind of thing is much more believable than
I love that.
Than just the only thing you have is the recorder heard it. No one else did.
I just think just because it's the first episode, I'm not gonna believe it. Once they have better evidence, I'll be like, that was a really cool wind sound. but for this one, I just feel like it's too perfect to be the first episode they have something.
It definitely, thinking about it, because compared to a lot of the episodes, they don't always have a lot, if any, evidence. And the whole point is to disprove it. Yeah. And this time they couldn't on the first one.
Is there something else you'd like to... I only have one more thing written down. That's why I'm letting you go through yours.
A lot of this is just off the top of my head.
Okay. The last thing that I have, and then we can just kind of spitball. The last thing I have is, I feel like they really, really panned out that shot of her hearing the evidence and then she's crying.
Yeah,
they really milked that, and I feel like they kind of used her, and that was kind of gross to me. I was just like, they're using this girl and they're not even cutting. I understand if you use a crying shot and then you kind of pan it out a little bit, but you still skip the no noise other than wah, 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 wah. Let her have her moment without just diabolically putting this onto an episode.
I feel bad for her, but I have an explanation for it.
Okay.
And the whole point of it is to show the impact the TAPS team has on helping people.
Okay.
That was the point of showing her.
It is technically a good thing that it happens because she's going through it, and it's she's learning that the ghost doesn't hate her. Yeah,
it's not about, at least as far as came across with what TAPS provided for evidence to her, the supposed haunting isn't about terrifying the family. It just doesn't know where to go, essentially, is what they kind of concluded. And it thinks that, they don't want us here, right? And that's what sets her off in her emotional tearing up. So,
speaking of they don't want us here, you had a good thing to bring up during the episode. I'd like you to say again.
What was that again? I forgot.
It was during that part. You said that Jason has a problem of not letting two things belong at the same time. Of she can want to help them move on, while also not just wanting them to go away.
Oh yeah, it was. That was a bit of Jason's personality coming out. Is he's interpreting what she said as, we just want it to go away, while for her it's less about that kind of direct understanding of it. It's, we want it to be able to go where it should be going.
Yeah,
we want to provide it the ability to leave, instead of just saying we want it out of here.
Yeah.
And that would just, I think that's just a lot of Jason's personalities. He just wants to solve problems.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. It's just a little emotionally non-resonant with some of his clients, and even with his own partner, Grant, who is way more emotionally sensitive to the interpretation of what people want to have happen. Because it wasn't about, because the way he put it was, you don't want it to leave, but you want it to leave. And she's like, well, yes, but it's not that we want it to leave in a mean, like, we don't want it here. It's we want it to leave in peace, and we want it to be where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
That was the overall aim. I think someone who's more religious might have a better understanding of the way that I'm interpreting that or saying that.
I feel like as a religious person, I think she wants to help it move on from this, like, what she probably is feeling like is this, like, what is that place, that, you know, that place in
That
the middle
place.
in the middle
Place in the middle.
I can't think. Remember that 2D the 2D game that's in black and white?
No, I'm confused. Well, now I gotta see this. He's looking it up.
Limbo. Okay, I feel like she's thinking that these ghosts, where they are, is in, like, this sort of limbo. I feel like that's where she's feeling it is. It's like this this place where she could still help them move on, or, like, somebody can. And I feel like that's where she's coming from.
Yeah.
Is ghosts are the dead that have not moved on yet.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's very noble of her. If ghosts exist.
If they were real, yes.
Yeah, if they were.
You know, I can't say I've had really beyond one occurrence years ago, which was probably just me being 3 a.m. and sleepy as ever. So I can't really count it. I can't. But besides that, yeah, it's Jason's interpretation of it, I thought, was a little lack of emotional understanding.
Well, seeing that I really like hearing people's backstories. What is your one backstory with a ghost? If you're okay with sharing.
Yeah, it was at my grandfather's camper, and woke up, and it was about 3 a.m. Everyone else was asleep. I could still see the glow of the TV out in the main part of the trailer, essentially. I was in the back room where the master bed was, and I woke up and I lifted my head up, and imagine it this way: you got a wall on the left, at least for me, in the bed, lying down, looking towards the hallway. There's a left side wall, middle the hallway with the bathroom, and then on the right you have some cabinets to put clothes and things inside. And it was on the right side that there's this sudden white apparition, this appearance of what looked like a young child, a girl specifically, and she was wearing white with some, I could make out, like, lace patterns, like kind of like an 1800s style type of clothing, and her hair, could see that as well. And she was just staring at the wall off to the right side, facing right of what I can see, essentially. Yeah. And then she looks over at me quickly when she sees that I lift my head after a couple seconds, and I do remember her smiling and then disappearing. Okay. I was like so tired though that I just said, "What?" And then I just put my head back down and went back to sleep.
So, as a religious person and as a spiritual person, I have also I've never had an experience like that, but I have heard with, like, seeing a young girl dressed in white is a regular occurrence with a lot of people.
Is it?
And it is thought to be a guardian of some kind. Whether you're Christian and you believe it's a guardian angel, or if you're pagan and if you believe it's like just a guardian, somebody that is there to look after you. I think it's interesting, and I think that's that I would believe before I believe that somebody heard somebody say Tato salad. Like, I believe your story 100%, way more than I believe Tato salad.
Real, okay. I've never seen her again though. It was some reason it was only at the campsite.
It's almost a lot of people that have seen that, and I've known a couple people that have seen literally almost not in the same scenario, but that same, like, apparition.
Sure.
And then it's usually thought of as some sort of protector, some sort of, like, this is your guardian angel almost. Wow,
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I compared to nowadays too, I do remember her height. It was probably about 3/4 of my height. I don't know why I saw this so vividly, and especially at like 3+ in the morning, just in the middle of the night randomly, and I wake up and it's just staring off at the wall. There's a window there, but she was looking at the part where the wall was, not outside the window. It's like, what is
She's
happening?
protecting you from a demon. They're coming through the wall.
I have no idea. It was one of the most shocking things that I can remember seeing, though.
That's super cool. No, I love it. I think that I love spiritual stuff, and I think that stuff is very powerful for people. I feel like it's super cool.
I remember
But
being
just
scared.
but just like the first episode of the show, you're not going to hear mine until next episode.
Yeah, wow.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you coming through. All 2 of you that are watching the show. You want to say goodbye?
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.